Ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday. Super exciting. We're all back together again. I'm joined with, I don't know where exactly they are on the screen, but the lovely, bearded Jem Schofield, and the also lovely, facial-haired, sort of. What do you got going
Oh,
on over there? Is it a
yeah,
mustache?
that was my fault, by
Well,
the way. I left it on a single of me when you started the show. Very
Oh,
vain of
okay.
me, but it was not on
okay.
purpose at all.
To
And look,
to
you
my
know what?
bottom
Yeah, here he
left.
is. There he is.
Nice. How you
Yeah,
doing?
good. How are you?
I am well. And Jim?
I'm doing well, Caleb. Thank you for asking. And Shiz is in the house, so it feels like wow, we're getting some Espanol and cheeky small brown
Fancy.
fox. Here we go. They're coming in. Yay!
So good to see you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, this week, we're going to be doing something fun, looking at some extreme wide shots from some of our favorite films or just favorite shots in general, which is going to be exciting. Good to see you guys. Got some of the regulars. Hey, Jake, Michael, Sam, Daniel, Small, Brown Fox, and of course, the one and only The Shiz, and Dave, post-color gear. Good to see you guys. So, before we get to any of that, let's talk about what we'll be sipping on this evening. And we'll start over in the purple red shirt land. Mr. Ben-HUR, what you got for
Purple
us?
red shirt land. Well, I've been drinking some interesting beers again this week, but as we have said many times, it's just the wrong time of day for that. So I'm afraid I'm back on the old faithful, the little Queen Margot 5-year-old blended whiskey, which is excellent value for money, and I'll try and have something more exciting next week. But that's me.
Nice. Hey, you gotta. I love how when we first got together doing the show, every week, especially Jen was just killing it with all these like new beverages and stuff. And here we are, many episodes later. What episode is this?
I think it's like 72 or something like that.
Whatever Jem says plus 6. So that's where we.
Which we're almost up on 75 episodes, 75
Wow.
weeks of doing this, which is hard to believe.
You know what?
Nice.
On the first episode, I just had turned 40, and loads of people had bought me whiskey. So we went for weeks and weeks and weeks without me having to repeat drinks, and I've run out of steam.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
That was something else. Mr. Jem Schofield, what are you sipping on this evening?
First, what is turning out to be a weekly shout out to Rob up in Canada. I think this is starting to become something for a whiskey fund, not for a coffee fund, which is totally fine with me. And thank you again for being basically like an ongoing supporter. And look at this, coming in from Europa. It's the Shiz. Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Pear character
Gold stars,
exaggeratedly stretching his arm forward to offer a cup of coffee. Well, thank you, Shiz. I like that. I'm going to make it a Scottish coffee, which means it's going to have at least a dram of whiskey inside of it. Speaking of Scottish whiskey, it was Father's Day, and my lovely wife took me to the liquor store, and I'm going to have this. I'm going to have a dram of this 12-year. And it is, it's not that special bottle that I got for, I think it was Christmas, which is that 18-year. I have to tell you that at almost a third of the price of the one that I have up on the shelf behind me, this is, I'm not hating this. Let's just put it that way. So I'm going to have that for today, and I think it's appropriate. And happy Father's Day, even though belated to everybody who is a father out there, including my two very close friends who do Cameron Flask with me. So there you go. Caleb, what are you drinking?
This week, I'm actually going to be doing some wine.
Ooh, nice.
Pick this up from Sam's Club.
Oh.
A menage a trois.
Very nice. Hey, Guillermo.
Glad you said it so I didn't have to butcher my my pronunciation, if you will. So that'll be kind of a change of pace for me. So I'm just going to awkwardly hope this doesn't make a big mess over the keyboard.
Nice glass.
Thank you. Gotta do something not knockoverable. Ooh, and no drip down the down the stem. So that's what we're doing this evening. So, gentlemen, and
I love, yes, and Shiz says, I'm not a father, but some can call me daddy. Slanjava.
Oh my goodness.
That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
unbelievable.
Focusing. Cheers.
Unbelievable. I'm okay with that. That is just lovely. That'll be good for the yard work later on. Feeling good.
Nice. Okay. Ooh, that nice wine going down, pre-dinner wine. Warming
Nice.
the belly. It's good stuff. Okay.
I love it.
So let's go ahead and dive in to. Oh my goodness, Thomas.
What is it?
Flenstad.
What is happening here?
Norwegian Corona.
Oh,
1, 2,
come
3,
on.
knock.
Yes. Come on.
Whiskey
Amazing.
fun.
Thank you
love
so
it.
much, Thomas. If you got any
Incredible.
questions, let us know. And look, we want more people to be involved in these episodes. I try to get the stuff up on the website, on the YouTube channel by Monday. So if you check in sort of Monday midday, you should see what Wednesday's episode is. And if you want to create a PDF and you want to send it off, please do. And we'll include it in the show. So that's what I got to say about that. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Right. So, Jem, do you
Yes.
want to walk us through what parameters were on this one?
Absolutely. So pretty simple. This is really Ben's bringing back the frames. I guess it's not really a challenge, but it's bringing in frames. We originally did from film dash grab and also shot deck as our two main resources. Images or stills from some of our favorite films. And it was pretty broad when we did the first one.
It was.
With this one, this is extreme wide shots. And, they should be from films that we've seen. So it's not just scrolling through shot deck and, film grab and just saying, oh, that's a pretty frame. There has to be something about that frame or a couple of frames from that film that are extreme wide shots and talking a little bit about why we like those frames so much, what they mean to us, or is there a story behind them? It doesn't have to be that significant, but that's kind of the whole idea behind this week. And I don't think it's more complicated than that unless you guys have anything else to add.
No, I think that's it. I think I fancied doing something that was slightly less complicated than last week's.
Yeah, take a break from Psycho Challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Nice.
it was going to take 30 minutes to put together rather than all day. So that was kind of the motivation.
And no sponsorship or anything, but I have been using Shot Deck more and more as a resource for the idea of creating lookbooks and just to be inspired by frames. And they're adding also clips from certain movies, so you can see a frame and then sometimes even watch a little bit of a clip of that particular scene. You have to get in.
Read Shiz's comment.
What is he saying?
Said
What did he
extreme wide shots. Are we talking like Basic Instinct or?
Oh my goodness! What a cheeky. Where is Small Brown Fox when you need them? So Shot Deck, you are all welcome to fill out the application for it. It's still in beta. I have a feeling one day they might charge a little bit for the resource. It was started by Lawrence Sher, who is a pretty phenomenal cinematographer. He shot a little movie called Joker. He also shot the Hangover movies and a bunch of other good stuff. He knows his stuff for sure. And I think it's a good resource. I'm going to mute my audio for a second and just send a really quick text for these guys to shut off the air conditioning because I shut it off and then they shut it back on. And it's a house full of people. And then Caleb, just chatter for a second and I'll do it quickly.
Sure thing. While we're waiting, how does my color temp look? On my camera display, looks fine. Looks
you look
bit
good.
warm. Oh, it looks
No,
good?
I would
Okay.
say healthy. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say
good.
it's the perfect balance. Looks
Excellent.
natural, but but healthy. You know, a good
Nice.
colour.
I like
Good
it.
colour. Yeah, no, it looks nice.
Ugh.
So Shot Deck, if you've not used it, is just it's this really easy to use resource in terms of being able to search things by shot type. Whether it's today we were looking at wide, you can actually specify. I just want to find wide shots, and you can scroll through it that way.
Did you find like a wide shot composition? I could only find like aerial. Is there one? I couldn't find it on the site.
Yeah,
I could find different focal lengths.
Positive I did. Hang on, let me just go in and find it now. But I'm certain. Here we go. That I did searches by that.
And I'm
did you hear that?
Maybe
they shut down Olympus's camera business is out. By the way, sorry, I was just looking at the chat. Olympus is out.
Really?
They're official.
Dunzo.
Dunzolio.
So no selling, just peace out.
It looks like peace out.
That's hard. That's sad.
I know. Some great lenses too. And I have a lot of history with Olympus. Yeah. I'm sorry I cut in. You'll hear this air conditioning kick out in a minute. You should. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go ahead and jump right in, and why don't we do one frame at a time? We'll just keep going through until we exhaust our 5.
Yep.
And why don't we go clockwise, starting with Gem? We'll just go.
Okay. All right. This one is going to be sort of, I'm not going to say it's cop-out, because it really, it's just a film that I had in the last one as well. But it's a different frame, and let's just talk about it, I guess. So, first film is Arrival, and Bradford Young, great cinematographer. Here's, it's not actually this frame. This is just sort of a reference frame, though when I saw this, it definitely had some impact. I always loved these types of shots, but it's really this frame that's my first extreme wide. And, we see our main character before this entering, this spaceship, this UFO, but it's this first time that she's having interaction with this extraterrestrial being, and then beings later on. And it's just, for me, it's I love it when I see something, especially in a movie theater, that it's just not something I've ever seen. And I have a physical and almost emotional impact that happens in terms of, just being so in that scene. And there's just something pretty amazing about this. And I just love sort of the way the contrast is, and it's not high contrast. And I don't know, there's just something about that frame that does something for me. So that's my first frame. I don't know.
Cool.
I don't know if that's exciting or not, but it's definitely, when I saw it, and every single time I see it, I just kind of have this emotional reaction to it. So, yeah.
Nice.
And you both have seen that movie, and both of you have put that,
so good.
So
hate sci-fi, and that film's just out of this world. I love it.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Didn't all three of us choose something Arrival last time?
We did. We did.
Gemini. I know Gemini did.
Just you two, I think.
Maybe it was just us two, but that particular frame and that whole sequence, I mean, I was just so sucked into that. It's sort of like that scene that I was telling you about, and it was one of my frames from the last time from Interstellar, which is the water planet, where the time is different than on the spaceship. But it was just that whole sequence in terms of the music, the enormity of that water, and then this tiny little ship, and then what was happening with the robot, and it just, the whole thing was, So there you go. That's what I got for my first frame.
So good.
Okay.
All right.
Is it Ben? Are we going to go to Ben's? Okay, so I'm going to... And Ben, if there's more than one frame, just tell me to continue on. Yeah. And I will go forward.
There's two for this first one. Yeah.
Okay.
These two are both from the same film.
Okay, here we go.
So this is from The Revenant. And there's so many amazing big wide shots in this. And the way this was filmed, I'm sure most people have read about the kind of harrowing hell that the production was on making this. That everything was shot natural light. They were out in horrible cold for months on end. Actors apparently, at the end of their tether with it all. But I just love this particular frame, which is also very reminiscent of another shot, which I'm going to come back to later on from an older film. But this just, I love the composition of it. It just has this lovely balance to it.
And am I going to another shot, or are we staying on this?
No, we can go to the number 2 now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So there's so many big wide landscapes in this that I absolutely love. And it was just literally going into shot deck and putting in Revenant, and just these were the two that really stood out. First one because I just love the composition, and second one again, just such atmosphere to it. Simple shot, but wonderful. Really, really nice.
But a simple shot where in that film, every single shot was not only thought out, but they waited for the exact right time of day in order to do that. There's some parallels between that and 1917, different but similar in the sense that they were using natural light for everything, and they really, wanted to get particular types of light and types of shots. That's a beautiful shot. Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by the challenge that they set themselves by making that film in that way. An enormous amount went into post. When you've got talent on screen, that only goes so far, and I think there was an awful lot of post needed to bring that up to compensate for the deficiencies of only limiting yourself to natural light.
Right.
But for those wide landscape shots, it's fantastic. And to me, it's beautiful. It feels like a nice, simple way of shooting. It's how you go and shoot stills. It's great.
Beautiful. 360 grad, just to acknowledge, yes, I think it makes a lot of sense for me to make sure that if I'm posting something that's a challenge, that I'll tweet it out when it actually gets posted to the channel, so that people who want to participate can do that. So well put and noted. Cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Something we could explore another time and even offline is I wonder if it'd be worth putting together some kind of email list. Because if you're old school like me, there's nothing like having it in your inbox, or if that's too complicated. But something.
Well, it's not. Sure. I mean, I don't have a very big list. It's so tiny because I've never really put any attention on it. But if you go to thec47.com, there's a pop-up on the first landing page, but also on virtually every page you can just sign up. And if you put your email address in there and you are part of the channel, then I'll start sending out a weekly, a little weekly thing that just says, here's our challenge, here's what's coming up on Wednesday on the YouTube channel. Keep it real simple, not bug you, but feel free to add your email address and it'll get captured now. Because I actually, I've been in COVID land, so I actually set up a proper capture thing. So I'll do it. Yeah. Cool.
Nice. Right on. So, I suppose I'm next.
Let me bring you up. Are you ready for me?
So, yeah, I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
You want to set us up first?
I was just gonna. This was an interesting one because at first I was thinking about I just pull up the ones I thought of when stuff that hits your head, and of course you don't think of everything, but a lot of the stuff in this list maybe isn't the most of wide shots, but there's stuff that either stuck out to me growing up or something that just boggled my mind, which I guess is all three of us. That's kind of how we're going about this. So shot number 1, there's actually 2 images here, but the first one, I'm curious how many people can guess what this is.
Okay, and the other thing that I was going to say is that when I went into shot, thank you, Daniel. When I went into shot deck the first time, I actually did, on this challenge, I did alphabetical, and I just put in extreme wides, and I just started to go through movies alphabetically and just see kind of what I ran into. So it's kind of cool for that too.
Interesting.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
go ahead and bring it up.
I love the way they organize stuff there. All right,
It
shot
is.
1. Any guesses in the chat? I'll give you a little bit. Got
This
some snow
looks
here,
familiar.
something small in the distance.
I may be wrong, so I'm not going to verbally take a guess. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, by now I'm sure they've already put in a couple. Okay, we got some. Oh, they're just talking about other shots. Okay, so the reveal. This is Empire Strikes Back. There it is, David.
Yeah,
He's got it.
baby.
Oh yeah, Star Wars. They're coming in. So this is the first shot of the what do they call them? The ATA walkers.
Yeah.
And in the distance, and I love just this whole sequence. As a kid, I just wanted to watch this whole thing over and over. The slow reveal of something in the distance, the sounds, and then if you jump to the next slide,
Yeah.
or PDF page.
Oh, you're just right. Everything about this is just my childhood.
Yeah, I know, right? So this, I couldn't find the exact frame, but essentially there's a soldier looking through essentially futuristic binoculars, and it starts at the feet. And when you're watching this for the first movie, or for the first time, you don't know what it is. And then it just goes from that extreme wide shot we just looked at to a close-up of the feet, and then he slowly looks up to reveal these like monstrous machines. And the way they come out of the mist and everything, it's just the best. So
Beautiful.
one of my faves.
When I saw that movie for the first time, I remember I went with a family friend, and we went to pretty much the biggest screen in New York. And we got there, I was gutted, because I had seen Star Wars Episode 4 in the theater. And then we went, and that was in Scotland. And then when we went to see this movie in New York, I had moved to New York, and we got there, and we were about 10 minutes into the movie. So I didn't get to see the first 10 minutes of the movie. We watched the whole... No, hold on. So we watched the whole movie, and then we just sat there, and everybody got up and left, and we just stayed in our seats, and the movie started up like 30 minutes later again, and we just watched Empire again from the beginning to the end. It was great.
Oh my god!
That's amazing. I guess I was 9 years old when that happened. So that was a good day. Every time I went to go see a Star Wars film, the first three, obviously 4, 5, and 6, and an Indiana Jones movie, those were experiences in my life. So good, amazing. So there we go.
Nice. Love it.
Okay.
Right
cool.
on. So with that, we're gonna go back to you, Jem, for shot number 2, round 2.
Round 2. Here we go. Here's some. These are stats that I put up on Arrival, just in case if you want to just see those. If you're doing a playback here, and some information that you can pull from Shot Deck. We put some really good stuff in there.
So awesome. Love all that stuff.
Okay, and here we go. Film number 2, Ben-HUR. Okay, so this is interesting because I don't think it would be a film that would just come to the top of your mind when you're thinking about films that had impact on you. But when I was going through Shot Deck, there were these frames that I saw, and I just remembered, and this is again some stats on the film, maybe I put them in the beginning this time, who knows what I did, God only knows. Take a look at this shot. Now when Ben-HUR was made, this was the most expensive film that had ever been made in history. So I think it cost almost $16 million back then.
And what year was this again?
50, what was it? 50 something? 50, 59. It was, the 50s. 10, by the way, 10,000 extras. 10,000 extras. And this is,
holy cow.
Yeah. This is not ILM, by the way. And it was the most expensive film. And it turned out that it was the highest grossing, most successful film when it came out. And I think that Gone with the Wind is the only movie that grossed more. And that's one of the most amazing movies that has ever been made in the history of filmmaking. One of the early, definitely one of the first, epic color films. but the scope of Gone with the Wind is, I haven't seen it in ages, but it's just out of control.
It's an amazing film.
It is an amazing film, and so is Ben-HUR. But what Ben-HUR did for me was something similar to, the Star Wars films and everything like that. And I obviously didn't see it originally in the theater, but look at the scope and the scale on this extreme wide. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is actually filmed. This is not ILM, putting this thing. They're not CGI, dude. Come on, Memo. They're not. I don't think, this is insane. And this, like, if you think about
what
episodes,
did he say CGI?
No, he was saying they look CGI. No, he's taking the piss. Got it. If you look at the second frame here, like, think about films like, and Cleopatra, all those films. I mean, they're just amazing in scale. But if you look at this frame, think about George Lucas. Think about episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars, and look at the scale and sort of the design. And while that was largely done CGI, this is basically practical sets and matte painting. And there's a lot of matte painting on here. That's right, Small Brown Fox. There's a lot of matte painting, and some of it's foreground. A lot of it's really the background stuff. Yeah. And yes, 360 grad, absolutely painted. It's not all practical sets, but there was a lot of practical sets here. And just look at this. I mean, it is absolutely insane, the scale of production that they were doing back then.
Can you imagine being the second AC when you've had like 10,000 extras in for the day?
Oh, I would shit my pants. Oh my god!
And you're having to change those mags and going. I'm pretty sure that was light tight. Did my back? I hope I didn't let anything leak until I was rushing to come back the next day.
Can you imagine being the AD? And the second AD.
Right, yeah.
I mean, and having to deal with the actual talent, it was absolutely insane. So it had been a long time since I had seen those frames. Ben-HUR, absolutely epic, and just really brought me back. And so much of that inspiring future scale of production on films. So that's my second one. Yeah.
Very cool.
That's like biblical on multiple scales.
Yeah.
In multiple ways. So I was just reading up on it. In today's money, I already lost the tab. It was like $100 million.
Yep.
And what's funny is the new Ben-HUR from 2016, I think I saw somewhere.
I didn't watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they massive flop. And they spent over $100 million, so almost the same amount in today's money. And they lost 25 to 50 million or something ridiculous. So interesting.
Should have been a Marvel movie.
Right on.
Yeah, but I have to say though, it's interesting to just even have the discussion about how different the money, that $100 million would be spent back then as it's being spent today. Because so much of that, what is now $100 million, the $15-16 million back then, was spent on capturing those images in camera, for sure. Mm-hmm. No question about it. That post-production was almost all about traditional editing, as opposed to, like, if you think about, there were films. If you think about Mary Poppins, that was a lot of, stuff that they were doing that was early, not actual green screen, but you cannot remake Ben-HUR. You're right. Yeah.
Just thinking about like the chariot stuff, the whole chariot sequence, like unbelievable.
You know what's unbelievable? You know what's unbelievable is this scotch that my wife got me for Father's Day. That's what's unbelievable. It is absolutely delicious. Okay, just saying.
Bet. Jealous.
Right. On that point as well, it's one of the few things that, with the Mission Impossible films, that are just now a bit of a ridiculous rinse and repeat, obviously. But I still have this huge respect for them still doing so much of the action stuff. It's all still done, or a huge amount of it's still done in camera.
Yeah.
To the point where nothing else really does that anymore.
Well, so, and I think that
just Buffy.
Yeah, And you also think about it's also has a lot to do with the directors and the filmmakers behind it. It'll be interesting when Dune comes out to find out the differences between how they made that film and Blade Runner 2049, because it's the same director, but it's a different cinematographer. And generally, though Deakins has worked on a lot of films that need CGI, he tries to do as much as possible in camera, if he can.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of stuff that's done in post, and they know that there has to be a lot of stuff, but he's trying to get the image right as much as he can in terms of what he's doing. So I'm going to be excited about Dune. I think that's going to be an interesting one, especially because of who the filmmaker is. So that's good. Awesome. Okay. So who's next on the list? Who do we go to? Is it you?
Mr.
Okay.
Ben-HUR.
All right. So let's go into Ben. And am I going to the next frame, Ben?
Yeah, let's go to the next frame. But I think we'll reference 3 in this. But let's start with the first one. So this is a film that I caught on Netflix recently. It was kind of at the beginning of the lockdown, and it came up, and I hadn't really heard of it. It's called The American, and by and large, it's pretty appalling. However, the Clooney's pretty good in it, but the script's just kind of weak, and it's a very cliched story. But there's a lot of the cinematography that I really liked in it, and with our extreme wides, and we've been looking at exteriors, landscapes. To me, it's always quite interesting for interiors. This is kind of how I made my money for the first probably 10 years of me earning a living from creating imagery, was doing interiors and treating things in this kind of architectural style of photography, using wides, trying to keep your verticals vertical, trying to keep them parallel with the frame, not having convergence, although this fails very slightly if you look at the right-hand edge. But it's more or less this. I quite like the way that it's been framed, very much central to everything, and this kind of empty space. And it's a scene towards the end of the film that's quite a tense scene, where he's waiting for this woman who he thinks is going to try and kill him. And it's a bit of a kind of Mexican standoff.
Yeah, it's interesting frame, too, because when you look at it initially, obviously, I think that most people will be drawn to the center of the frame, where you look at those right 3 windows and then those left 3 windows, and it's the brightest part of the frame is the right side of the frame. So your eye is drawn to the right, it comes to the middle, and then you notice that there's a person sitting there in that chair, and they're not the brightest thing inside of the frame, but it's clearly intentional that that's the way your eye flows within the frame, as opposed to having those windows similar exposure on the right and the left, and maybe even having a special or just a little bit of a glow or a little bit more light on the person that would just draw your eye to them immediately. So I think it's an interesting frame from that standpoint as well, in terms of how your eye kind of travels through the frame.
It's an interesting frame as well, because it's interesting to see how that's been lit and what the key was for it, and what that, because you see that there's obviously another building outside that's taking a huge amount of light from somewhere. Yeah. And if you look at the way he's lit, he's obviously keyed very much from his left, our right. Yeah. So it's interesting to see. I'd like to know, what they did, whether they were actually using a lot of natural light coming in and using that building as bounce to some degree to him. So it's an interesting frame. It's kind of worth watching this film, but it's a slightly cliched thing, and there's bits of it I read about afterwards that it was kind of a slight homage to the spaghetti westerns. These were the westerns that were made, the Sergio Leone films that were made late 60s. A lot of those filmed in Spain and in Italy, and this is set in Italy. And I'll come on to a little bit more of that. But if we jump to the next frame.
Yeah, I would recommend, by the way, if you have not seen the spaghetti westerns, come on. Get your shit together. Come on, you kids. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So this frame, I'm not going to say too much about this. I just love the line through it. So it's either a helicopter or a drone shot, looking straight down, wide, Yeah, it's a segue between two locations. The car is very small in frame, and obviously it's moving beautifully through it. It's just I love those kind of those shots. Not much else to say about it, but really interesting. But if we then let's do the third one, because we were talking about the Sergio Leone, the spaghetti westerns. This shot is very, very similar to the first shot that I chose from The Revenant in terms of its framing. And this is from Once Upon a Time in the West, which is my favorite western by far.
How many movies are we going through here? I'm a little confused by your system here. It's not.
Well, frames,
no. Because
round.
No.
Yes, I'm listening.
Stop. Through this film, there are loads of subtle references to Once Upon a Time in the West, including, I think it is this exact scene is on the TV, huge, when he's waiting in the cafe in. I don't know if either of you've seen this film, but there's a scene where he's in the locals cafe, and he's on his own, and the lighting's really horrible, which gives this real sense of tension. Again, he's kind of a hitman who's on the run, and this is playing in the background of it. But it's reminiscent of the first one, so it links to the other two. It links to this film, and it links to the first shot that I had in The Revenant, so it's not completely irrelevant.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
I've justified myself, but I love it. It's an amazing film. The sound design on this film. I know we're talking about the shots, but the sound design on Once Upon a Time in the West is just it's brilliant. I love that film.
I want to point out that Rob just sent a couple of frames from a film, so don't let me forget, and we'll do like a little tack on at the end where we just show a couple of those frames from Rob. Okay, I'll try to. It'll be a little clunky to add the PDF, but I should be able to do it pretty quickly. We might have a black frame for a minute, but we'll get those up, and don't let me forget. Okay, so we are on to Caleb. So let's go in here. Do we move on, Caleb? Are you ready?
We're ready.
We're past the halfway point, so we got to get... Oh, come on. Love this shot.
Caleb.
And I love this film. Come on.
I have this same shot. I have the exact same frame in mind.
I was wondering if there would be, at least one other person, if not all three of us, choosing this, because it's... I mean, what can you say? It's art.
Yeah, it is. This whole film is amazing.
Yeah.
This could be in a museum.
Yeah. If you look at early career of Deakins, you could probably say, not that there's any mistakes. At this point in time, let's just be real here. Every frame that he creates is a frame that he has thought about, and he's ridiculous. I mean, there's amazing cinematographers right now, but he is just consistently somebody who creates images for the film that he's shooting. There's no vanity in terms of creating the frames that he creates. He may or may not be a vain person, I have no idea, but the frames that he creates are all about the story. So let's go back to that.
His podcast?
Oh, yeah, every single one. Or I think 95% of them. Fascinating.
Yeah. His podcast, I think, kind of shows off how chill he is, and just
he is
what a great dude.
But let's just be. He has very specific ideas about things too. I mean, he for sure has opinions, but he is he's great. He's really
yeah.
So
anyway, I mean, the storytelling, the art, the composition, just out of curiosity, because everyone has different thoughts about this shot, and so I did a quick search, and the amount of video essays on this shot is ridiculous that you can find, of people going way in there. Like he's taking the same steps to the car that he did from the car. And I won't spoil anything, but it tells you a lot about his drive, his character, how even though things are happening, conversations are happening that should deter him from his actions, he's just sticking on the same path. So much good stuff. So anyway, Fargo,
great
and
awesome.
And the only does the fact that top left planter, it just, if it was just like the tiniest little bit wider, it just, for some reason, not when you watch the film, but just looking at it as a still,
the top left. There's a far top left, right, or I'm sorry,
I know.
On the left side, and then on the right side, there's also one.
There is.
Yeah.
I wish someone had gone and
room
moved
for
them.
improvement. he's got some work to do to.
But remember
that last 1%.
Remember that this is also I can't remember the sequence. Is this locked off completely, or is there any
locked off
movement in this?
It's like 18 seconds no sound.
Yeah.
Really
that's
ballsy stuff.
Yeah. All right. Good. Yeah, it is interesting, Benjamin, that Deakins has shot mostly spherical rather than anamorphic. Okay, here we go. I agree with you. Okay, so I'm going in
now, Ben. Because I was able to pick up Ben's as well.
Oh, yeah. Are we gonna go
through 3 frames?
Are you gonna go ahead and exactly? Are you only have one on this, or are we going to a second frame?
Just that's it for me.
Okay.
For this
all right,
round.
I'm going to my wides here, and we're moving on to my next film, which is Gangs of New York.
All right.
A film I actually like, and Scorsese. And here we go. So there's the stats. I'll leave that up for a second so you can see that. And this is actually going to be shown in reverse order to the way the film actually builds. This is actually the whole first scene starts, and then we basically come out to sort of this aerial view of New York at that time. But I'm just going to start with this shot. We're going into 5 points in Lower Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And this is after we call this a little bit of a brawl between the butcher and, it's a mess. But really, the shot for me is this second one. So so it really plays like this in the actual film, and then we see Lower Manhattan, and then it actually has a timestamp in terms of the year. But it's this scene right here. Or this shot right here for me. And this is the 5 points region of Lower Manhattan, and you kind of have, what I think is a beautiful frame. And interesting that this is following your shot, Caleb, from Fargo, just because we have these 2 frames with snow in them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful film, but it's also really interesting because it's, the snapshot of New York City at that point in history, and sort of this sort of struggle between, natural-born people from New York, who are patriotic, and then also people who have come in who are not first or second generation immigrants, and it's maybe there's something to be said about that too. But we won't read into it that much. So there we go. That's my second film, and it's Gangs of New York. And now we're gonna move over to Are we over to Ben now, Caleb?
Yeah.
All right, let's do Ben. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna more or less skip over this next one, I think, and just given on time. You can bring it up for a second, but I'm not going to talk about it. We'll go on to the next but one, I think.
Okay.
So I did have Fargo. Yeah, we've done that. So go on to actually skip to the next one I had is a scene from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I love. There's quite a lot of wides in it. This isn't the one that I wanted to do. It's just a great film. It's all very much theatre sets and the way that it's all built rather than you'd think as film sets. But that's all I'm going to say on that. And on to the next one. Because I think this one has a more interesting story. In that this is the closing scene from Miss Potter. That's Renée Zellweger sitting there.
Beautiful film.
Yeah. I was location scout for this, so I was standing right behind the camera when this was shot, and this was my location that I found because this was during the reshoots. So just in terms of finding this place, the Lake District, which is where this was shot, is one of the most popular tourist sites in the UK. This was shot in July. All the original shoots had been done in April with months and months of planning, making sure that we had crowd control, getting people out of the way. The reshoots were done in July with a week's notice, and having to find somewhere that was not going to, and they'd run out of money by this point. So it was really trying to do things on the cheap, trying to find. There were five or six scenes that they came back to do the reshoots on. This being one of them, and this is a little secret spot that I know. This is the area I'm from, and this is Loweswater, which is in the northwest of the lakes, and it was just this final scene of her painting that they brought the credits over. So it's kind of.
Were you born under that tree?
Exactly. Yeah, I was born under that. I was born under that tree.
Good find. That's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
So it's
beautiful
kind of
location.
Beautiful.
It was just an interesting thing because of having to find stuff very quickly. Things kept changing, and I think this was shot on a Sunday evening. It was shot over 2 days, the retakes, and all natural light, and just having to go and knock on farmers' doors early in the morning on a Sunday morning, going, "I've got Renée Zellweger just down the road. Is it cool if we come and film in your field?" And they're going, "No," clearly not believing a word you're saying to them. Yeah. So I have very fond memories of working on that. It was the first proper big film that I ever worked on, and so I was quite proud of having some connection to that final shot.
That's pretty wicked, man. I like that.
Me too.
So that was cool. So I thought it was a bit of a story. I don't think it's a particularly great shot in terms of
beautiful location though.
About, but there's a story behind it. So there you go.
I like that. Okay, good.
So in order to make it through the rest of these, we're going to have to do a rapid round.
Okay, Here we go.
We've got 14 minutes left, and we have a guest going to be jumping on. So I'm thinking, how about this? We just run through the rest of our frames.
Okay.
So I'll do 3 more, and then here we go. So
okay,
next frame.
Just very quickly, Small Round Fox.
Very quickly.
The African Queen, amazing. Treasure of the Sierra Madre, amazing. Okay, done. Go. Oh, yes. Was going to be on my... Go ahead.
Max, baby.
Hell, Fury Road.
So there's a ton of great wides. What I love about this film is so many things. It's gorgeous. The color, I love the cool, warm.
Yes, yeah.
And then I always was just in love with the amount of motion blur that they had. Their whatever shutter angle or whatever they're doing was just awesome. So you get these like big, the whole ground is just flying and blurred out, which is just beautiful. So if you haven't seen this movie, you just got to see it. Next.
I'm going next for you. Okay, good.
Yeah.
George Miller. George Miller is insane, and if you look back at the original Mad Max movies, his vision is always there. It hasn't changed. It's just everything has just gone into steroid land.
He's just got more toys now.
He's so fucking good. I love his. He's so singular in his vision. And there's nobody like him as a director. So I actually had a frame from the original Mad Max, which is, sorry, I'm effing with you right here, Caleb. But the original Mad Max movie where there's the woman with her child and she's running down the road with her child. She gets out of the car.
Right.
And it's just like this amazing extreme wide. That was on my list. So, and that harkens back to the original, even before Road Warrior, which is Mad Max 2. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Here we go. Go.
So this is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I'm pretty sure this is probably the number one thing used in schools to teach, like in film schools. You guys have seen this, I'm sure, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So this is like, it's incredible. So wide shot, you can see the 3 characters. They're all in this circle in the middle of a giant cemetery. They're all about to shoot each other. You got to go see that movie if you haven't. And then I don't have the shots here, but they then transition to... It's everything you need to know about composition and framing when it comes to people, all the different angles, all the different everything. So wonderful movie. And then the last one for me out of my 5.
And the soundtrack doesn't suck either, but that's okay. Let's go.
Oh my gosh!
Speaking about Once Upon a Time in America. So that was just a nod to that comment.
Talking over all my frames, Jem. Gee whiz.
Oh my god!
So the last one for me, number 5. This is like dork, Caleb, nerd, love fantasy stuff. This is Two Towers, Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Peter Jackson, director. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know who was the DP on this, or cinematographer. But this is where they're running to go save two characters, and they're running for like days and days and days, which they actually did on set. They just had them run and found locations with a helicopter, and they just told them on a radio to start running whenever they're ready, and they had the camera rolling. So just some epic shots in New Zealand. Composition, the music, of course, is outrageous. So yeah, Lord of the Rings: Two Towers.
Very cool.
And then I guess you could just fly through these last two super quick, like one sentence and we're done. Oblivion,
Yes.
unreal, that movie, so good. And then
So
the
good.
last one, I don't know if you can call this an extreme wide shot, but I just can't get
Oh,
over this scene.
yes.
One of my favorites of
Arrival.
all
Right.
time.
Just everything about it.
That whole
The
and
color,
so
the
emotional.
lighting, natural.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I know.
You're in her head.
So much about
everything. It was that is what that
Just an
in fact,
amazing film.
actually more impactful than the scene that I brought up, Caleb, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I was
agreed.
this was a scene that I was like, you just understood, this character, and
Yeah.
and Amy Adams is just she's ridiculous, I have to say, as
I
an
think
actress.
this shot's going to go down in history as right up there next to that Fargo shot. It's just kind of legendary amongst,
for goodness
yeah.
sake.
film scene.
And I
So
wouldn't mind
good.
that house. That'd be a good party
Yeah,
house.
right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Hell
anyway,
yeah.
that's all mine.
Oh, these are great.
Um,
These are all fantastic frames. And I want to. I do want to say,
Everybody's got it.
Caleb. I do want to say that, The Hobbit, when I grew up, was one of my favorite books. It was a garbage trilogy, but The Lord of the Rings was really Peter Jackson's,
Peak
crowning.
Peter Jackson, man.
I mean, just amazing in terms of a director who did what he did, and that whole it was ridiculous. I mean, because I read those books, and what you're seeing on the screen to me was sort of what was inside of my mind when I was a kid. They just stretched The Hobbit way too far to get more box office, so that was a bad move. It could
But
have
I
been
also
one
wonder.
movie.
I wonder if Lord of the Rings was so good that The Hobbit was frowned upon so much. Like if Lord of the Rings had never happened, I wonder if we would think differently about it. I don't know.
I don't know. It's possible. All right, here we go. I got to go speed round here. So, The Matrix. Here we go. Boom.
Snap.
2 frames. Love this
Oh,
frame. But this is not the frame, but this is just sort of the setup. But I remember this frame very well. But this frame right here, this was, I mean, of course, Neo. This is the transition, right? He's going in there and he's getting his training. But look at this frame. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Amazing.
It's ridiculous.
Stunning.
Okay.
Stunning. And Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon has a very similar frame, which is also one of my favorite films of all time. Not as wide as this, but this to me is just, obviously draws from all of those, old Japanese and Chinese films and kung fu movies. But it's just, I just love this frame. It's beautiful. This movie is a movie that I didn't see when it came out. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of the most beautiful movies you'll ever see. Conrad Hall, and it's Road to Perdition. And there's not a bad performance. There's not a bad frame. This is Jude Law, who is just so twisted in this movie. If you haven't seen Road to Perdition, I mean, this movie brought me to tears. This is a very emotional film, and there's a lot of great extreme wides inside of this film. I don't know if it's my favorite film with Tom Hanks, but it's pretty close. Daniel Craig is in here, Jude Law. The cast is just absolutely ridiculous inside of this film. And I would say that if you haven't seen it, see it. It's just a fantastic film. And do I have anything else? I think that's it. Road to Perdition. Okay, we're going over to Ben. You're up.
Okay. Just one more, I think, for me. So not an awful lot, because I know when you'd sent an email through saying put some stuff in from your own shots, so I put one in at the end, which was from a little film that I did. Jago's not in tonight, but this was one that we worked on. a few years ago. This again is Lake District. This was a film about, you can see down in the bottom of the valley, this is Honister Pass in the Lake District, that there are 5 little cars on the road underneath. And these little cars, it was an electric hire car scheme. And these things are like little motorbikes, little 2-seaters. And I kind of wrote a script about, because they were all painted up like sheep, which is the most popular species in that area. So we had the shepherd actually raising these little Twizy cars. And we had it all with very tight shots, all with very shallow depth of field on the shepherd, so you couldn't see that it was cars. And he was talking about, having reared these things for years and years and being the 3rd generation and these farmers. And then this was the reveal, so that we actually see that these are actually cars. They're not sheep that he's been herding on the fells. And then we go into this kind of Top Gear sequence with them running through. But I kind of like the shot because it was a drone shot, but it's just this nice use of it in terms of revealing something. After we've had all these little hints as to where we are and what we're looking at, all of a sudden everything becomes clear.
Yep. Amazing.
That's
I didn't know. Yeah. That's great. Comments. Somebody said they haven't seen the Matrix movies. Don't see the Matrix movies. Just watch the Matrix. The other 2 don't mean anything at all. Exactly. Those aren't even movies. They're just. I don't know what they are.
One's a video game.
Yeah,
the other one's
forget those. And Bill, I got that info from Shot Deck. So go to Shot Deck, SHOTDECK. You can sign up for the beta, and hopefully you'll get accepted in. I didn't know this frame is beautiful. Okay, great. So that's good. Let's try to create a very quick page here with Rob's frames. And you'll
just
see
while you're doing
here.
that, I'm going to mention I'm going to mention a film in terms of ultra wides. Is The Favorite. I don't know if either of you saw this film.
Oh yeah, amazing. Okay, here we go.
So The Favorite is all shot with ultra wides to the point where they couldn't light anything. You couldn't get lights in the frame; they were so wide, and it was all interior, so it was all shot natural. It's a brilliant film and really interesting when you watch it from a filmmaker's point of view to see how that has all been done technically.
Nice.
That's it.
So here's Rob. So these are some frames here from the 1993 film, The Joy Luck Club, which actually did very well. Wayne Wang's film.
I've not seen this.
And this was the first time I realized a movie could deliver really emotional gut punches in long shots. Plus, they are so painterly. In the future, I can only scale down. I can't scale up images inside of Ecamm Live right now. So when you put stuff into these things, do them at a 16:9 aspect ratio. I can't zoom into them. It's just not possible. So put them into something where you can do a 16:9 frame and make them fill the frame. And you'll see here's a couple of other frames from the film. And the comment is, this particular shot set the key players in the frame so well. His cinematographer, Amir Mokri, has so much game, we'll say. Effing game. Lots of game. So, these are some beautiful shots. That bottom shot is beautiful. I don't know if I would consider that an extreme wide. It's probably not even, if you think about where that camera is sitting, but we're seeing a lot in the frame. And to me, an extreme wide is when we are literally on, a very wide angle lens and we're seeing a lot of the stuff there. And that's what's great about Shot Deck is you can go in there and you can hit a film and there's metadata in there and you can say, I want to see extreme wides shot on wide angle lenses, and you can really start to sort out for yourself. It's an education for me, for sure, when I look at that stuff.
And another, when we were talking at the beginning, Caleb, about trying to find the wides as a search criteria, it's actually in lens style. There's fisheye, wide, medium, long lens telephoto.
Oh, okay, so the lens is not necessarily like shot.
Yeah.
Because I was looking under like composition, because I feel like a wide shot or extreme wide, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I still feel like, that's like, I've been spending so much time over these last long time learning and getting better at lighting that I feel like I have so much more to learn about composition and focal lengths. And, they all they're things that I deal with all the time, but it's one thing to look at a frame, and then it's another thing to say, I'm going to shoot something, and I know what focal length I'm going to choose based on the sensor size or the sensor size, we'll just say nowadays, that I'm going to be shooting on. And so I think that's also a great thing about Shot Deck as opposed to Film Grab, is that you're getting that metadata where you're getting all of this information that's helping you sort of understand what the choices were in terms of not only what type of shot it was, but what type of lens might have been used to get that shot. So I think that's good.
Like Fargo. I think that's a longer lens. I don't know, but just thinking about that shot,
right?
I think that's a longer lens, right?
Exactly.
But it's far away, so there's a lot to like pick apart with stuff like that. And
I think that's all good stuff to be thinking about. I'm not doing a happy half hour today because I've got I've got a quad and a trailer dump truck thing that I have to fix. So I got some tools I got to take out, and I got to do some stuff out in the yard. Some tinkering with some outdoor stuff. But next week we'll do a happy half hour, 40 minutes. Man stuff.
Got some man stuff to do.
Yeah, drink some whiskey and go fix some shit.
And Ben's got some sleeping to do.
That's true.
Yes.
Beautiful. Sure. Lovely, guys.
Well,
lovely. And thank you,
what
Rob.
An episode.
Yeah,
Rob. Thank you so much for jumping in there.
That was good.
Maybe next time we do this, we'll kind of make sure, as much as possible, we can get you guys involved and pay attention to the end of the episode where we talk about this kind of stuff. By the way, I don't think we have a topic for next week, but we'll come up with something.
I think frames again. I think we go to another. Yeah, I think we go to another frame size, and we'll have Ben choose it. He's going to host next week, and let's get the parameters in place. Give me a title in the description. I'll post it by the weekend if you get it to me by Friday, and then I'll start tweeting it out and doing social so that we can get some other people in. We'll do up to 5 people. What is going on? Gee whiz coming in at the end, as always. Come on, you ridiculous human being. Thank you very much. You're awesome every week for being here. Thank you. I love it. Yep. Yeah.
Extreme close-ups. Yeah, maybe that's what we should do next week.
Oh boy. Extreme close-ups. We could do all kinds of stuff.
That's much harder.
Like for another series idea. Love it. All right. So, Jem, Ben, anything to tell the good people before we shut this beautiful show down?
Love you guys. Love the whiskey. Looking forward to getting out there and fixing something. And looking forward to everybody coming by next week. And check out Conversations on my channel. I've got the 3rd in the series with Dan Neese. We did part 1 today. We'll be doing part 2 next week. And we're doing it at 11 a.m. Pacific instead of 9 a.m. because we can. And that's what the internet's all about. That's what I got. Thank you.
Ben.
All right. This was great fun again tonight, and that went so fast. These hours always pass so quickly.
Vanish.
Always so much fun. Yeah. So looking forward to doing this all again with you next week. So take care. Have a good week, everybody.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ben, for the idea. Subscribe if you haven't already. There's a button down there below this video somewhere. For the regulars, thank you for being just a beautiful bunch of people that we enjoy seeing every single week. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.
Dobrono.